Welcome to a chapter a day. This audiobook is here to activate you. Right now, in this moment, your life exists on a timeline you did not consciously choose. A timeline shaped by habits, emotional patterns, inherited beliefs, nervous system conditioning, and unconscious agreements you made long before you knew you were making them. And here is the truth most people never hear. You are not stuck. You are stabilized. Stabilized in a frequency. Stabilized in a self-image. Stabilized in a version of reality that keeps repeating itself because it feels familiar to your body, not because it is aligned with your potential. This audiobook is about crystallizing a new timeline, not by wishing, not by forcing, but by releasing what is no longer coherent with who you are becoming. Expansion does not arrive when you add more. Expansion arrives when you remove what is heavy, when you dissolve resistance, when you stop carrying identities that no longer belong to you. As you listen, something will begin to reorganize. Your nervous system will soften. Your internal dialogue will slow. Your sense of time will loosen. This is not imagination. This is timeline mechanics. Every belief you release frees energy. Every emotional pattern you complete opens a new probability. Every moment of presence collapses the old loop. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to upgrade the structure you are operating from. Listen fully. Let repetition do its work. And allow the version of you that is ready to lead to step forward now. Chapter 1. You are not stuck. You are repeating. Welcome to a chapter a day. Be aware of how reality organizes itself. Life does not respond to what you want. Life responds to what feels familiar. Reality follows toward familiarity. You are not stuck. You are repeating. This is not a judgment. This is not a flaw. This is not something to fix. Most people believe they are trapped by circumstances, by finances, by relationships, by timing, by responsibility. But what is actually happening is far more precise. The pattern persists because it feels known, not because it is true. Your nervous system memorizes emotional states. Your identity memorizes roles. Your subconscious memorizes environments. And reality mirrors that memory back to you again and again until it is completed. That is why the same situations keep appearing in different forms. Different job. Same ceiling, different partner, same dynamic, different opportunity, same outcome. Not because the universe is testing you, not because you are blocked, but because familiarity has more gravitational pull than desire. Reality follows familiarity. You see this clearly with money. Someone grows up around a certain income level, a certain stress pattern around money, a certain emotional relationship to spending, saving, receiving. They get a promotion. They lose a job. They start a business. They receive a windfall. And somehow, within months or years, the numbers stabilize right back to what feels normal. Same level of pressure. Same level of comfort. Same level of scarcity or ease. Not consciously. Automatically. The pattern persists because it feels known, not because it is true. This is why willpower does not work. This is why motivation fades. This is why affirmations fail when they are disconnected from embodiment. Because familiarity lives in the body. And the body always wins. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. That sentence changes everything. If your job feels heavier every day, it is not because you are ungrateful. It is because you are no longer the version of yourself that belongs there. You are moving through parallel versions of yourself, and the environment has not caught up yet. So every morning feels like resistance. Every task feels draining. Every interaction feels misaligned. It feels like a piece of you is dying, not because you are failing, but because you are repeating something you have already completed internally. The pattern persists because it feels known, not because it is true. The same thing happens in relationships. People leave partners saying, "I'm so sick of this. I can't do this anymore. I just want something different. But they leave carrying the same emotional charge, the same resentment, the same identity, the same expectations. And then they meet someone new. Different face, different story, same energy, same avoidance, same power dynamic, same emotional availability. And they say, how did this happen again? Because reality follows familiarity. If you leave something in a negative vibration, you re-enter it in disguise, over and over, and over, and over again, until the emotional loop is completed. This is not punishment. This is precision. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But expansion requires release. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This is law. I'll give you a grounded example. There was a period where I felt obligated to say yes to something, not because it felt aligned, but because of responsibility, history, expectation. The energy was gone. I knew it. My body knew it. But I stayed, out of habit, out of identity, out of familiarity. The moment I opted out, not dramatically, not angrily, just cleanly, something remarkable happened. Within hours, not days, higher, more crystallized versions of the same opportunity appeared. Same category, different frequency, better timing, cleaner energy, more alignment. That is how this works. Every time we close one door, we always open 3 more without a question, without a doubt. That is how the technology works. That is how the quantum technology works. But only if the closure is complete. Most people don't close doors. They drag them behind them. They leave physically, but not energetically. And so the loop continues. Reality follows familiarity. This is also why creative blocks exist. Not because inspiration is gone, but because the old identity wants to produce the old results. You are no longer interested in what once worked, but you are still trying to create from the same internal position. That creates friction. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. This is not a signal to force productivity. It is a signal to release the version of you that created the old output. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This applies to abundance in extreme ways. Look at lottery winners. So many of them end up broke again. Not because money is evil, not because abundance is dangerous, but because the internal structure was never upgraded. They accessed a timeline they could not sustain. The nervous system returned to familiarity. In some cases, it was a soul contract to experience winning and losing. In others, it was a lesson that abundance requires capacity. Money amplifies who you are. If scarcity feels familiar, abundance will feel unsafe. Reality follows familiarity. So what do? You stop trying to escape patterns. You stop fighting loops. You stop labeling yourself as stuck. And you start observing repetition. Calmly, honestly, without judgment. You ask, where am I recreating the same emotional experience in a different form? Where am I choosing familiarity over alignment? Where am I holding on to something because it feels known, not because it serves me? Focus on the impact that you want to have, and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The how comes later. First comes release. It's about discipline. Not discipline as punishment. Discipline as clarity. Discipline to stop repeating what no longer matches you. Discipline to leave without resentment. To close without guilt. To move without fear. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But only if you stop dragging the old one along. The moment you stop repeating, the timeline shifts. Effortlessly. Inevitably. You are not here to endure patterns. You are here to complete them. And completion always feels like relief. You have now seen the mechanism. You understand repetition. Now comes the next step. If expansion creates misalignment, if repetition ends through release, then the question becomes, what do you let go of first? You've recognized the loop. Now you learn how to exit it cleanly. Chapter 2. Expansion begins with subtraction. Expansion does not begin by adding more. It never has. It never will. Expansion begins by removing what no longer matches you. This is the part most people misunderstand. They try to grow by stacking techniques. More affirmations, more strategies, more routines, more information. But the nervous system does not respond to volume. It responds to coherence. When you add without releasing, you create pressure. When you add without completion, you create burnout. When you add without subtraction, you collapse. That is why so many people feel exhausted on a growth path that was supposed to feel freeing. What you release determines how far you rise. This is law. If something feels heavy, it is not because growth is hard. It is because you are carrying something you no longer need. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. Expansion creates misalignment first. Ease comes later. That is how you know growth is happening. Look at decluttering. Not as a trend, as a principle. People clean out a closet and suddenly feel lighter. They reorganize a room and suddenly think more clearly. They remove objects and gain energy. Nothing was added. Everything changed. Because physical clutter is frozen decision-making. It is delayed completion. Every object carries memory, expectation, identity. When you release it, your system recalibrates. The same law applies internally. Mental clutter, emotional clutter, obligational clutter. Burnout culture is built on addition. Do more. Push harder. Optimize everything. But burnout is not a failure of effort. It is a refusal of the body to continue carrying misaligned weight. The body always tells the truth first. When people say, I just don't have energy anymore, what they mean is, I am done carrying this version of myself. What you release determines how far you rise. This is why over-manifesting backfires. People vision board 10 goals, script 5 futures, affirm abundance all day, but nothing moves. Because manifestation is not accumulation. It is selection. You do not get more by wanting more. You get more by becoming available for more. Availability requires space. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. Think of someone trying to manifest a new relationship while holding resentment toward the last one. They say they are open. Their body is not. They are full of memory, full of protection, full of unfinished emotion. So reality waits, not as punishment, as precision. What you release determines how far you rise. The same applies to work. People say, I want purpose-driven work. I want aligned income. I want freedom. But they refuse to release a job that drains them. Not because it is aligned, but because it is familiar. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. You cannot step into a new timeline while gripping the old one. That creates tension. That creates delay. That creates exhaustion. I have seen this pattern repeatedly. Someone outgrows an environment. The culture feels loud. The conversations feel shallow. The values feel off. Every day feels heavier. They think something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong. They are already gone energetically. They are just waiting for permission to leave physically. The moment they release, something shifts. Sometimes immediately. Sometimes subtly. But always inevitably. Every time we close one door, we always open 3 more without a question, without a doubt. That is how the technology works. That is how the quantum technology works. But only if the closure is clean. Clean does not mean dramatic. Clean means neutral. If you leave saying, I hate this, I'm sick of this, I never want this again, you carry it with you, and you recreate it. Different building. Same feeling. Different boss. Same dynamic. Different role. Same burnout. Reality follows familiarity. Release is not rejection. Release is recognition. Recognition that you have completed a chapter. Recognition that your capacity has expanded. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But parallel realities require parallel identities, and identity upgrades require subtraction. This is where discipline comes in. It's about discipline, not discipline to grind, discipline to stop, discipline to say no, discipline to leave early, discipline to pause, discipline to not fill space just because it is uncomfortable. Most people rush to fill the gap. They leave something and immediately replace it. New job immediately. New relationship immediately. New distraction immediately. They do not let the nervous system recalibrate. So the same pattern locks back in. What you release determines how far you rise. There is a moment after release where nothing is clear yet. That moment is powerful. That moment is neutral. That moment is where the new timeline installs. If you tolerate that space, reality reorganizes around you. If you panic and fill it, you recreate the old structure. This is why stillness is expansion. Stillness is subtraction. Silence is subtraction. Saying no is subtraction. And subtraction increases capacity. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes beliefs. Beliefs about struggle. Beliefs about timing. Beliefs about worth. You do not need to replace a belief immediately. You just stop rehearsing it. You stop feeding it. And it dissolves. What you release determines how far you rise. This chapter is not asking you to do more. It is inviting you to do less, precisely. Less obligation. Less over-explaining. Less emotional labor. Less tolerance for misalignment. Focus on the impact that you want to have and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The form will arrive. First, the space must exist. Expansion is already happening. That is why things feel tight. That is why some parts of your life feel smaller. That is why certain roles feel impossible to maintain. You are not failing. You are shedding. And shedding is not loss. Shedding is preparation. You now understand subtraction. You understand release. But there is a deeper layer beneath this. Why does the body resist release even when the mind understands it? Why does stability feel safer than alignment? Why do people cling to what hurts them? To answer that, we must go deeper into the system that decides what feels safe. You've released the excess. Now we address the structure that keeps it in place. Chapter 3. Stabilization is not alignment. Stability is not the same as alignment. They feel similar at first, but they lead to very different realities. Stability is about predictability. Alignment is about truth. Stability keeps the system calm. Alignment allows the system to expand. Most people confuse the two. They stay where things are familiar and call it peace. They tolerate what drains them and call it responsibility. They remain in environments that shrink them and call it maturity. But the body knows the difference. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. This is not personal. This is biological. The nervous system's primary job is not happiness. It is continuity. It wants the known. It wants the predictable. It wants what it has already survived, even if that survival was painful. This is why people return to dynamics that hurt them. This is why they resist opportunities that would free them. This is why alignment initially feels unsafe. Alignment introduces the unfamiliar, and the nervous system flags unfamiliar as dangerous. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. So when you begin to expand, the body tightens. Not because something is wrong, but because something is different. This is where most people stop. They say, "This doesn't feel right. This feels risky. This feels unstable." and they retreat, back to the job that pays but drains, back to the relationship that is calm but dead, back to the routine that numbs but never grows. Stabilization is achieved. Alignment is postponed. Reality follows familiarity. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. But expansion always disrupts stabilization first. A regulated nervous system does not mean a static life. It means a flexible one. Stability that requires you to shrink is not safety. It is suppression. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. This is why growth feels like discomfort before it feels like ease. The body is updating its reference points. It is learning that more is possible, that ease can exist without collapse. That expansion does not equal threat. This learning takes repetition. It's about discipline, not discipline to endure discomfort blindly. Discipline to stay present while the body recalibrates. Discipline to not run back to the old just because it feels calm. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. But holding more requires capacity. Capacity is built by allowing the nervous system to experience new levels of safety in new environments. This is why people sabotage success. They finally get what they wanted: more money, more freedom, more visibility, and suddenly anxiety appears. They think they are broken. They are not. Their body has never held this before. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. So it tries to return to baseline. This is why lottery winners often lose everything. Not because abundance is cruel, but because the nervous system resets to what it knows. In some cases, it is a soul agreement to experience the rise and fall. In others, it is simply an untrained capacity. Money arrived faster than the body could integrate. Reality followed familiarity. What you release determines how far you rise. If you want alignment, you must retrain safety. Safety is not sameness. Safety is self-trust. Self-trust says, I can be with uncertainty. I can regulate while expanding. I do not need to shrink to survive. This is practiced. This is embodied. This is not intellectual. When you stay in misalignment because it feels stable, the body pays the cost. Fatigue, resentment, numbness, low-grade anxiety. These are not failures. They are signals. Signals that stabilization has replaced alignment. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But each version requires a new nervous system baseline. This is why rest matters. Not as escape, as integration. This is why stillness matters. Not as avoidance, as recalibration. When you pause, the nervous system updates. When you breathe, the body learns safety in the present. When you stop forcing, the system reorganizes. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. But it can learn destiny. It learns through experience, through small expansions held calmly, through choosing alignment even when it feels unfamiliar, through not rushing back to the known. This chapter is not asking you to destabilize your life recklessly. It is inviting you to question what you call safe. Is it safe because it nourishes you? Or is it safe because it is predictable? These are not the same. Alignment may feel unstable at first, but it stabilizes at a higher level. Stability without alignment is stagnation. Alignment without regulation is chaos. The goal is coherence, and coherence begins in the body. You now see why release feels threatening. You see why people cling to what no longer fits. You see why expansion requires nervous system participation. This understanding changes how you move. You stop interpreting discomfort as danger. You start interpreting it as growth. You no longer rush back to the familiar. You stay present. You breathe. You allow the upgrade. You have distinguished stability from alignment. Now we go deeper. If the nervous system holds the pattern, then the next step is to rewire it. Not through force, through coherence, through regulation, Through embodiment, you've identified the mechanism. Now we refine it. Chapter 4. The Crystalline Nervous System. The nervous system is the gateway. Not the mind. Not belief. Not desire. The nervous system decides what reality you are allowed to inhabit. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. Every timeline requires capacity. Capacity is not ambition. Capacity is not intelligence. Capacity is not effort. Capacity is regulation. If the body is in survival, perception narrows. If the body is in coherence, perception expands. Reality responds accordingly. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. Most people attempt to change their lives while their nervous system is braced. They visualize from tension. They plan from contraction. They manifest from urgency. And the system rejects the upgrade. Not because it is wrong, because it is unsafe. Trauma loops explain this clearly. A trauma loop is not memory. It is a state. The body re-enters the same physiological pattern regardless of present conditions. Heart rate changes. Breath shortens. Muscles tighten. The world is interpreted through that state. So the same outcomes repeat. Reality follows familiarity. Hypervigilance is another version of this. Constant scanning. Constant anticipation. Constant preparation for threat. The mind believes this is awareness. It is not. It is overprotection. And protection limits perception. When the body is hypervigilant, it cannot receive. It is busy guarding. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. Collapsed states work the same way in the opposite direction. Shut down. Numbness. Disengagement. This is not rest. This is exhaustion. In collapse, there is no energy to choose differently. So reality becomes small. Opportunities pass unnoticed. Support feels unreachable. Possibility feels abstract. Not because it is absent, because the body is offline. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. But expansion cannot stabilize without regulation. This is why discipline matters here. It's about discipline, not discipline to push. Discipline to regulate. Regulation is not forcing calm. It is allowing sensation without interpretation. It is letting the breath deepen without agenda. It is staying present while the body reorganizes. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. But space without regulation becomes chaos. Regulation turns space into structure. This is where the crystalline nervous system forms. Crystalline does not mean rigid. It means coherent, clear signal, clean transmission, stable flow. In coherence, the body holds more information without distortion. Emotions move without sticking. Thoughts arise without gripping. Decisions emerge without urgency. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. This is why some people move through massive change with grace, and others collapse under far less. It is not willpower. It is capacity. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But each version requires a nervous system that can remain present at that level. This is trained, moment by moment. When you feel activation and do not react, capacity increases. When you feel uncertainty and remain grounded, coherence builds. When you pause instead of panicking, the system upgrades. This is not passive. This is mastery. Focus on the impact that you want to have and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The body will find the pathway if it feels safe enough to explore. Safety is not the absence of sensation. Safety is the ability to stay with sensation. This is how trauma loops unwind. Not by analysis, by regulation. The moment the body experiences intensity without danger, the loop loses power. The memory completes. Energy returns. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. This applies to abundance directly. If receiving more creates tension, the body will limit intake. If visibility creates constriction, opportunities will stall. If intimacy activates defense, connection will remain shallow. Not because you are undeserving, because the body is protecting its current capacity. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. But regulation teaches destiny. It teaches the system that more can exist without threat. That expansion does not require collapse. That growth can be steady. What you release determines how far you rise. Release without regulation destabilizes. Regulation without release stagnates. Together, they crystallize. This is why stillness is power. Stillness allows integration. Integration stabilizes expansion. You are not meant to rush this. Speed comes naturally once coherence is established. A crystalline nervous system does not chase. It attracts. It does not force outcomes. It allows them. Because reality reorganizes around coherence automatically. You now understand why mindset alone is insufficient. Why motivation fades. Why effort exhausts. The body must be included. The nervous system must be trained. You have learned the foundation. Regulation is access. Capacity is permission. Coherence is command. And now that the body is included, the next layer becomes visible. If the nervous system holds capacity, then identity determines direction. You have regulated the system. Now you examine the structure you are operating from. Because what you believe you are defines what you allow. Chapter 5. Identity is the heaviest object you carry. Identity has weight. More weight than circumstances. More weight than effort. More weight than desire. Identity determines gravity. And gravity determines which timeline you occupy. You do not manifest from desire. You manifest from identity. Most people try to change outcomes while protecting who they think they are. They want more money while identifying as the one who struggles. They want ease while identifying as the responsible one. They want expansion while identifying as the realist. The identity overrides the intention every time. You do not manifest from desire. You manifest from identity. Identity is not who you are. It is who you have been. It is a collection of memories, reactions, and roles that once kept you safe. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. So identity forms around what worked before. The problem is that identity does not update automatically. It must be released deliberately. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. But identity lags behind expansion. This is why growth feels heavy. You are carrying a version of yourself that no longer fits the terrain. Consider the struggling artist. This identity often begins as protection. It justifies instability. It explains inconsistency. It gives meaning to hardship. But once internalized, it becomes an anchor. Opportunities arrive and are rejected. Abundance feels suspicious. Ease feels undeserved. The person wants success. The identity wants struggle. You do not manifest from desire. You manifest from identity. The same is true for the nice person. This identity is built around safety, approval, harmony, avoidance of conflict. It works early. It keeps connection intact. But later it costs truth. Boundaries blur. Resentment builds. Power leaks. The person wants respect. The identity prioritizes acceptance. Reality responds accordingly. Then there is the realist. Often praised. Often admired. This identity equates limitation with intelligence. It dismisses possibility as naive. It avoids risk under the banner of wisdom. But realism without imagination is stagnation. The person wants expansion. The identity demands proof before movement. Nothing changes. You do not manifest from desire. You manifest from identity. Identity is heavy because it is familiar. Familiarity feels safe. Reality follows familiarity. So the timeline stabilizes around who you believe you are allowed to be. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But identity must come with you, or it will pull you back. This is why people sabotage progress. They get close to a new level. Visibility increases. Responsibility expands. Expectations rise. And suddenly they self-correct. They undercharge. They procrastinate. They withdraw. Not consciously. Automatically. The identity intervenes. What you release determines how far you rise. Releasing identity does not mean rejecting your past. It means acknowledging completion. That version of you did its job. It got you here, but it cannot take you further. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes self-descriptions. Notice how often you narrate yourself. I'm just not good at that. I've always been this way. That's not really me. These are identity reinforcements. They sound harmless. They are anchors. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. But identity decides which reality you allow. This is where discipline enters again. It's about discipline. Discipline to stop repeating old self-definitions. Discipline to pause before self-labeling. Discipline to allow ambiguity. You do not need to replace identity immediately. You simply stop defending it. You let it soften. You let it dissolve. Identity release often feels like disorientation. That is normal. You are between timelines. Do not rush to solidify. Let the system recalibrate. When you leave a role without resentment, you do not recreate it. When you outgrow an identity without shame, it does not chase you. But when you cling, it follows. Reality follows familiarity. This is why people leave jobs saying, "I can't do this anymore," and find the same dynamics elsewhere. The job changed. The identity did not. Same frequency. Different setting. What you release determines how far you rise. This chapter is not asking you to become someone else. It is inviting you to become less. Less defended. Less defined. Less constrained. In that openness, new identity forms naturally. Not from effort. From alignment. Focus on the impact that you want to have and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. Impact emerges when identity is flexible. When you are no longer protecting an image, energy frees up. Creativity returns. Opportunities align. Support appears. You feel lighter. Because you are lighter. Identity was the weight. You have now seen it. You have felt it. You have begun to release it. This is not the end. It is the opening. Because once identity loosens, something else becomes visible. Relationships, attachments, agreements. If identity is heavy, relational contracts are binding, and they must be addressed next. You have cleared internal structure. Now you examine external ties. Chapter 6. Releasing people and beliefs in lack. Relationships are agreements, not just spoken ones, energetic ones. Every bond carries terms. Some are conscious. Most are not. You are allowed to outgrow agreements. Many people attempt to change their lives without updating their relational contracts. They shift internally. They expand energetically. But the agreements remain intact. So the frequency locks. Reality follows familiarity. Relational contracts often form in survival. Shared struggle. Shared identity. Shared limitation. They sound like loyalty. They feel like love. But they are often agreements to remain the same. Guilt is the enforcement mechanism. Guilt says, if I grow, I leave you behind. If I succeed, I betray you. If I change, I am ungrateful. This is not truth. This is conditioning. You are allowed to outgrow agreements. Loyalty is often confused with self-abandonment. True loyalty does not require stagnation. It does not ask you to stay small. It does not punish expansion. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. This includes people. Not because they are wrong, Because the agreement has expired. Many people carry unconscious permission structures. They look to parents, partners, friends. They wait for approval to evolve. They wait for validation to choose differently. This delays timelines. Permission does not arrive externally. It is revoked internally. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This applies to relational density. When you are surrounded by lack consciousness, expansion feels unsafe. Conversations reinforce limitation. Dreams are minimized. Risk is discouraged. Not maliciously, habitually. Reality follows familiarity. This is why people returning to old environments feel themselves shrink. The body contracts. The language changes. The vision dims. Not because you are regressing, because the agreement is still active. You are allowed to outgrow agreements. Leaving does not require confrontation. It requires clarity. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending. You stop performing. The energy withdraws naturally. When you release relationships cleanly, without resentment, something remarkable happens. New connections appear. Aligned, supportive, expansive, often quickly. Every time we close one door, we always open 3 more without a question, without a doubt. That is how the technology works. That is how the quantum technology works. But if you leave with anger, the contract persists. You recreate it. Different faces. Same dynamics. This is why people say, I keep meeting the same person in a different body. Because the agreement never ended. You are allowed to outgrow agreements. Beliefs in lack function the same way. Beliefs are inherited agreements. Family narratives. Cultural limits. Generational stories. These people don't succeed. Money causes problems. Dreams are unrealistic. These beliefs bond groups. They create belonging. But they also create ceilings. When you challenge them, resistance appears. Not because you are wrong, because you are breaking an agreement. What you release determines how far you rise. Releasing lack beliefs does not mean rejecting your family. It means ending a contract that no longer serves. You can love people without sharing limitations. You can honor the past without living in it. This requires discipline. It's about discipline. Discipline to tolerate misunderstanding. Discipline to withstand projection. Discipline to not shrink to restore comfort. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. But relational pressure can dysregulate the system if unaddressed. So you choose intentionally. Who has access to you? Whose voice you amplify? Whose expectations you carry? This is not selfish. This is structural. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But each reality has different relational architecture. Some connections cannot come with you, not because they are bad, because they are complete. You are allowed to outgrow agreements. This chapter is an invitation to review contracts. Not dramatically, quietly. Where do you feel guilt for wanting more? Where do you feel responsible for others' comfort? Where do you limit yourself to maintain belonging? These are signals. Signals of expired agreements. Release is not abandonment. Release is evolution. And evolution always reorganizes relationships. You have now loosened identity. You have released relational bindings. The next layer becomes visible. Emotion. Unfinished emotional circuits are the glue that keeps agreements alive. If you want timelines to shift permanently, emotions must complete. You've cleared the structure. Now you clear the charge. Chapter 7. Emotional completion ends time loops. Emotions are energy in motion. When they move, they resolve. When they stop, they loop. Unfinished emotions create open circuits. Open circuits drain attention. They drain vitality. They drain time. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. This is not philosophy. It is physiology. The body processes emotion through sensation. When sensation is avoided, the circuit remains open. So the same emotional pattern repeats. Different situations. Same feeling. Reality follows familiarity. This is how time loops form. Grief is a clear example. Unexpressed grief does not disappear. It waits. It surfaces as fatigue, as detachment, as sudden sadness without context. The person believes they have moved on. The body disagrees. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. Grief completes when it is allowed to move through the system. Tears are not weakness. They are discharge. Breath deepening is not loss of control. It is regulation. When grief is honored, energy returns. Resentment functions similarly. Resentment is anger held in suspension. It is the body saying, something crossed a boundary. When that signal is ignored, resentment accumulates. It hardens. It leaks into unrelated interactions. It colors perception. The person feels stuck. They are not. They are carrying unexpressed truth. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. Suppressed anger is particularly powerful. Anger is mobilizing energy. It is designed to create movement. When suppressed, it turns inward. It becomes self-criticism. It becomes exhaustion. It becomes illness. Not metaphorically, biologically. The body was prepared to act. Action never came. So the energy has nowhere to go. Time loops persist. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. Often, expansion triggers emotion. Emotion signals transition. If the emotion is avoided, the transition stalls. What you release determines how far you rise. Releasing emotion does not mean indulging in story. It means allowing sensation without narrative. You feel heat. You feel pressure. You feel movement. You stay present. The circuit closes. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. This is why some people repeat relationships. The same arguments. The same disappointments. The same endings. They change partners. They do not change emotional processing. The loop remains active. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. But regulation includes emotional flow. Regulation is not suppression. It is integration. This is where discipline matters again. It's about discipline. Discipline to feel without reacting. Discipline to stay with sensation without dramatizing. Discipline to let emotion pass completely. Most people interrupt emotion too soon. They distract. They analyze. They intellectualize. The body never completes. So the pattern returns. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. This principle applies to success as well. People feel guilt when they surpass others. They feel fear when they outgrow environments. They feel sadness when identities dissolve. These emotions must move. If bypassed, they sabotage progress. Reality follows familiarity. Unfinished emotion pulls you back. Completion frees you forward. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. Emotion is something. When it completes, space opens. That space becomes availability. Availability invites new timelines. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But each access point requires emotional completion. You cannot carry yesterday's charge into tomorrow's reality. This chapter is not encouraging emotional excess. It is inviting emotional precision. Feel what is present. Stay until it shifts. Return to neutrality. Neutrality is power. From neutrality, choice emerges. From neutrality, timelines reorganize. You do not need to relive the past. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to justify it. You simply allow the body to finish what it started. Felt fully, emotions release instantly. This is why silence is effective. This is why stillness works. In stillness, emotion has space. In space, emotion completes. You are not broken because emotions arise. You are alive. Completion is natural. You have now closed emotional loops. You have freed energy. The system is clearer. Now a new question emerges. If emotion no longer anchors you to the past, how does reality respond? How does manifestation actually work when loops are closed? The next chapter answers this directly. You have cleared internal resistance. Now you learn how timelines are selected. Chapter 8. Manifestation is timeline selection. Manifestation is not what most people think. It is not wishful thinking. It is not visualizing until the mind feels convinced. It is not asking, hoping, or bargaining. Manifestation is selection. You step into timelines, you do not create them. The universe already holds every possible version of reality. Every outcome already exists. Every parallel version of you is already operating somewhere. Your job is to align. Your job is to resonate. Your job is to step. You step into timelines, you do not create them. People believe they manifest by effort. They chase, push, and struggle. They try to force the universe to bend. It rarely works. The problem is effort without resonance. Effort without capacity. Effort without coherence. Effort may move energy superficially, but it cannot rewire the system. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Consider lottery winners. Some win large sums suddenly. They are celebrated as manifesting miracles. Many of them go broke. Not because abundance is fleeting. Not because luck failed. Not because the system is unfair. They return to familiar identity. They return to familiar frequency. They return to familiar relational and emotional structures. Reality follows familiarity. Even massive sudden gain does not shift them if the body, mind, and identity are not aligned. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Contrast this with sudden breakthroughs in careers. An entrepreneur closes a deal unexpectedly. A creative completes a project in record time. A student receives an opportunity out of nowhere. The difference? They were already resonating with that outcome. Their nervous system was coherent. Their identity was ready. Their emotional loops were complete. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Manifestation is about alignment first, outcomes second. The mind wants the end result. The body wants the template. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. But each access requires the system to be prepared. Unfinished grief, anger, resentment, or self-limiting identity blocks the frequency. Old relational agreements anchor the system to previous timelines. Clear them, release them, integrate them. Then the timelines are visible. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Think of manifestation as opening doors. Every door exists already. Some doors are locked by internal barriers. Some doors are obscured by past emotion or identity. Some doors are simply ignored because attention is elsewhere. When you release these barriers, doors appear. Opportunities unfold. Support emerges. Reality reorganizes around the new frequency. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Over-manifestation fails because people focus on the outcome rather than resonance. They say, I want this amount of money. I want this partner. I want this position. But the system responds to identity, coherence, and emotional completion, not desire. You step into timelines, you do not create them. The most profound manifestations happen quietly. A shift in energy. A recalibration in identity. A closing of relational and emotional circuits. Then the outcome appears as if by magic. It is not magic. It is precision. It is law. Focus on the impact that you want to have, and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The system knows the pathway. You only need to align. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Many people fail because they attempt to manifest while still carrying old frequencies. a job left unresolved, a relationship left uncompleted, an identity not released. The new timeline arrives, but it does not stick. The pattern reasserts itself. The loop persists. Reality follows familiarity. But when the system is coherent, when identity is updated, when emotion is complete, timelines become accessible instantly. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Timing is always perfect. Support always appears. Opportunities always line up. Not because of effort, not because of trying harder, not because of luck, because the system is aligned. What you release determines how far you rise. Manifestation is about vibration, not visualization. It is about presence, not pressure. It is about allowing, not forcing. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Every breakthrough begins internally. Every sudden opportunity emerges from preparation, coherence, and completion. You cannot manifest what you are not ready to hold, and the universe will not allow it. It waits until you expand enough. It waits until the body can sustain the new frequency. You step into timelines, you do not create them. Every day, you can choose alignment. Every choice recalibrates frequency. Every integration opens doors. Small, consistent internal work compounds. Old loops dissolve. Identity lightens. Relational agreements loosen. Then the timelines are available. You step into timelines, you do not create them. This is the paradox. You do nothing to force outcomes, and everything shifts. Manifestation is effortless once the system is prepared. Discipline is in preparation. Discipline is in coherence. Discipline is in complete release. You step into timelines, you do not create them. And now that you understand how selection works, the next question is, how do you sustain alignment through resistance? Because frequency will always be challenged. Because old timelines will call. Because expansion requires consistency. You have learned the law. Next, you learn the practice. Chapter 9. The Myth of Linear Progress. Progress is not a straight line. It is not measured by hours worked. It is not measured by how many steps you take. It is not measured by effort alone. Alignment collapses time. Hustle culture teaches the opposite. It glorifies struggle. It glorifies sacrifice. It glorifies exhaustion. People are told, keep pushing, keep grinding, keep proving yourself. The system celebrates activity. It rarely celebrates coherence. But activity does not equal expansion. Alignment collapses time. Consider quantum leaps. A person may work intensely for years and see little growth. Another may pause, integrate, regulate, and suddenly accelerate. Not because the first person was lazy. Not because the second person was lucky. Because frequency, not effort, determines acceleration. Alignment collapses time. Linear thinking assumes reality is a staircase. Step by step, level by level. Reality is not a staircase. Reality is a web of possibilities, a field of timelines, a matrix of parallel outcomes. When you align internally, you can step anywhere. Not gradually, instantly. Alignment collapses time. Hustle culture confuses motion with progress. A busy mind is not a clear mind. A busy schedule is not an aligned schedule. A busy body is not an empowered body. Movement without coherence reinforces old patterns. It locks you into past frequency. It repeats loops. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. Linear metrics miss expansion entirely. People celebrate promotions. They celebrate milestones. They celebrate visible accomplishments. But unseen growth often carries the real transformation. Nervous system upgrades. Identity shifts. Emotional completion occurs. These are invisible. These are internal. These are quantum. Alignment collapses time. Consider creative breakthroughs. An artist may struggle for months with the same painting. Then one day, in a calm state, clarity emerges. The painting is completed in an hour. The work was not compressed magically. The artist's system became coherent. The nervous system, identity, and emotion aligned. Time appeared to collapse. Alignment collapses time. Linear progress also misleads people in relationships. Some try to force growth with effort. Some try to push change with persistence. Some try to earn trust, love, or validation over time. Change does not require force. Change requires alignment. Change requires resonance. Old agreements dissolve naturally when frequency shifts, not when force is applied, not when energy is expended trying to prove worth. Alignment collapses time. In financial growth, the same principle applies. Working harder does not equal earning more. Working smarter does not guarantee results. Integration, capacity, and coherent identity open doors instantly. Lottery winners, entrepreneurs, and sudden successes illustrate this. The same opportunity appears multiple times across parallel timelines. The aligned system accesses the version with the highest resonance. Alignment collapses time. The myth of linear progress keeps people trapped in struggle. It convinces them, if you don't suffer, you are not progressing. This is false. Suffering is not a prerequisite. Resistance is not the measure of growth. Struggle is not proof of value. Energy is proof of growth. Presence is proof of growth. Coherence is proof of growth. Alignment collapses time. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, the system responds instantly. The universe does not wait for your permission. It responds to your frequency. It reorganizes around your new level. Linear thinking misses this. It measures only what is visible. It ignores what is energetic. It ignores what is internal. Yet internal shifts drive external outcomes. Discipline matters here. It is about discipline. Discipline to pause. Discipline to integrate. Discipline to remain aligned despite external chaos. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes old beliefs about progress, old ideas about effort, old ideas about timing. Time is elastic. It bends according to coherence. It contracts around alignment. It expands when resistance persists. Alignment collapses time. The person who works less but integrates more often achieves more than the person who works constantly without coherence. The body, mind, and energy system must all be coordinated. Otherwise, results are slow. Loops persist. Opportunities appear temporarily and vanish. Focus on the impact that you want to have and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. Energy will find the pathway. Timing will adjust. Results will emerge. Alignment collapses time. Linear progress creates a false metric of success. Quantum alignment creates real results. Your trajectory is not measured in hours, weeks, or months. It is measured in resonance. It is measured in capacity. It is measured in coherent energy. When you integrate this principle, resistance becomes a tool, not a trap. Challenges no longer dictate timelines. Old loops no longer dictate outcomes. Fear no longer dictates decisions. Every time we close one door, we always open 3 more without a question, without a doubt. That is how the technology works. That is how the quantum technology works. Alignment collapses time. You are no longer limited by sequential steps. You are free to access accelerated versions of your reality. You are free to step into timelines you were previously not allowed to inhabit. You are free to operate as if the future is already present. The system now responds to coherence. The next step is maintaining this frequency consistently, because every timeline shift invites friction. Every expansion invites contrast. Every breakthrough invites old patterns to reappear. You have learned why linear thinking is false. You have learned why struggle is not proof. Now you will learn how to sustain the alignment that collapses time. Chapter 10: Transcending the Avatar. There is a difference between who you are and who you are playing. Most people never separate the two. They believe their thoughts are them. They believe their emotions are them. They believe their personality is fixed. It is not. You are not the character. You are the player. The avatar is the interface, the name, the history, the preferences, the habits, the emotional patterns. The avatar is useful, but it is not sovereign. Awareness is sovereign. You are not the character. You are the player. Observer consciousness changes everything. The moment you observe a thought, it is no longer running you. The moment you notice an emotion, it is no longer in control. The moment you witness a reaction, authorship returns. This is not dissociation. This is clarity. Your body memorized survival, not destiny. So the avatar develops strategies. People-pleasing, overachieving, avoiding, controlling. These strategies were intelligent. They worked once, but they are not who you are. You are not the character. You are the player. Most suffering comes from identification. I am anxious. I am bad at relationships. I am not good with money. These are not truths. They are avatar descriptions. When you believe them, you give them command. Reality follows familiarity. So the same patterns repeat. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. Expansion requires perspective. Perspective comes from the observer. The observer sees the avatar clearly, without judgment, without shame, without urgency. From that position, choice becomes available. Energetic authorship begins here. Authorship is not control. Authorship is direction. You do not force the avatar to change. You guide it. Like a skilled player learns the mechanics of a game. You learn timing. You learn pacing. You learn when to act and when to pause. You are not the character. You are the player. This is why manifestation accelerates when identification loosens. The avatar wants certainty. Awareness allows possibility. The avatar clings to history. Awareness operates in the present. The avatar fears loss. Awareness knows expansion. When you expand beyond your own expectations of what's possible, you keep accessing higher and higher realities and parallel versions of yourself. Those versions are not created. They are selected. Selection requires flexibility. Flexibility comes from not being fused with the character. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes releasing self-importance. Self-importance is identification. When the avatar feels threatened, it reacts dramatically. The observer remains calm. Calm is power. A regulated body can hold a larger reality. Observer consciousness stabilizes regulation. You feel emotion without drowning in it. You experience sensation without story. You respond instead of react. Time slows. Options appear. You are not the character. You are the player. This is why stillness is so effective. In stillness, the avatar quiets. The observer becomes obvious. From that position, reality reorganizes naturally. No force, no struggle, no urgency. Energetic authorship means you influence without pushing. You choose tone. You choose response. You choose focus. Focus on the impact that you want to have, and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The avatar obsesses over how. The observer trusts alignment. This chapter is not asking you to erase personality. It is inviting you to stop being confined by it. The avatar is a tool, a vehicle, not the driver. When the avatar fails, you do not collapse. When it succeeds, you do not inflate. You remain centered. This is freedom. You are not the character. You are the player. From this position, identity becomes flexible. Roles become temporary. Outcomes become less charged. And timelines become easier to enter. Because nothing is being protected. Nothing is being defended. Nothing is being proven. Reality responds to that openness. This is why enlightened action looks effortless. It is not lazy. It is precise. The observer sees the optimal move, then acts cleanly. No extra motion. No wasted energy. It's about discipline. Discipline to return to the observer. Discipline to notice identification. Discipline to disengage from unnecessary drama. This is not bypassing life. It is engaging it skillfully. You have now stepped back from the avatar. You have reclaimed authorship. The next layer emerges naturally. If you are not the character, then what happens to doubt? What happens to disbelief? What happens when the avatar questions reality itself? That is where many people stall. So that is where we go next. You have claimed the player's seat. Now we address the mind's resistance to truth. Chapter 11. Addressing Denial and Credibility. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Most people filter reality through doubt. They question what is visible. They argue with what they feel. They dismiss what they cannot measure. Skepticism is often unconscious. It sounds rational. It looks logical. It feels safe. But safety is not always alignment. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Self-gaslighting is common. I must be imagining this. This is just coincidence. Maybe I am too sensitive. These phrases are not thoughts. They are defensive patterns. They protect the old frequency. Presence dissolves the defense. Intellectual bypassing is a subtle form of resistance. People study endlessly. They analyze every possibility. They delay action under the guise of preparation. Knowledge without embodiment is empty. The nervous system must feel it. The body must recognize it. The energy must integrate it. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Science provides interesting parallels. Quantum physics demonstrates that observation alters outcomes. Particles exist in probability until measured. The act of awareness collapses potential into reality. This is not metaphor. This is law. Your consciousness interacts with the field. Your focus determines which possibility becomes dominant. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Embodiment is proof. When you align with reality fully, the body confirms it. Nervous system coherence is tangible. Emotional completion is measurable. Your energy shifts before the external outcome appears. Presence bypasses doubt. Presence bypasses the mind's hesitation. Skepticism dissolves when the body knows. It does not disappear because of reasoning. It disappears because the energy matches reality. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Consider abundance. A person may intellectually accept prosperity. They may even speak affirmations daily. Yet if their energy is dense, cautious, or restricted, manifestation stalls. Belief is optional. Alignment is mandatory. Your nervous system will confirm readiness before reality shifts. It measures coherence, not faith. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Denial often manifests as waiting. I will act when I am ready. I will start when conditions are perfect. I will believe when proof exists. Waiting is resistance. Waiting is stagnation. Waiting is repetition of old loops. Presence moves. Presence releases loops. Presence accelerates timelines. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Self-doubt also appears as comparison. I am not as advanced as they are. They must be special. I cannot access that reality yet. Comparison anchors limitation. It reinforces identity loops. It delays expansion. Observation, not judgment, corrects this. Notice the doubt. Notice the question. Notice the disbelief. Then release it. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Embodiment practices accelerate clarity. Deep breathing. Body scanning. Movement that integrates energy. These are not optional. These are structural. They prepare the nervous system to hold higher realities. Resistance shows itself in the body first. Emotion surfaces before thought. Tension arises before explanation. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Many people discount subtle signals. They wait for external validation. They seek certification. They ask for proof from outside sources. Reality responds internally first. When you feel coherence, the external world aligns. When the nervous system resonates, opportunities appear. When the body confirms, the mind follows. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes doubt. This includes intellectualizing. This includes the need to rationalize. Presence collapses loops. Presence dissolves denial. Presence allows credibility to emerge naturally. Skepticism is energy, not argument. Presence integrates energy, not logic. Presence activates capacity, not explanation. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. The world measures outcomes externally. The mind measures internally. The body measures energetically. The body is always correct. The energy system always knows. The timeline always aligns with coherence. Presence makes disbelief irrelevant. Presence renders denial powerless. Presence allows effortless manifestation. Focus on the impact that you want to have and don't focus on the way that you're going to deliver that impact. The system knows how. You only need to align. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. When skepticism arises, notice it. When self-gaslighting occurs, recognize it. When intellectual bypass appears, observe it. Do not fight it. Do not justify it. Do not argue with it. Energy shifts naturally when you witness it. The nervous system recalibrates. The field responds immediately. Truth does not require belief. It requires presence. You have now distinguished mind patterns from reality. You have observed skepticism without resistance. You have allowed the body to verify truth. The next step is mastering the final frontier of personal reality. How to hold and sustain abundant timelines consistently. Chapter 12. Desire is a directional signal. Desire is not what most people think. It is not greed. It is not attachment. It is not a demand for satisfaction. Desire points to available timelines. It is a signal from the self, not the ego. The body remembers what you once longed for. The mind recalls what you once imagined. The soul whispers what it has always known. Desire points to available timelines. Consider childhood dreams. The games you played, the sketches you drew, the questions you asked, they were not random. They mapped your natural frequency. They hinted at potentials you have yet to inhabit. Desire points to available timelines. Most adults dismiss these early callings. They rationalize them away. They tell themselves, "That's not practical. That's impossible. I have to be realistic." Yet the timeline associated with that desire still exists. It waits for coherence. It waits for acknowledgement. Desire points to available timelines. Suppressed callings often appear as persistent longing, a nagging sense of, "I should be doing more," a feeling of incompletion, a pull toward something unnamed. This is not discontent. It is orientation. It is a compass toward your next step. Desire points to available timelines. People confuse desire with ego craving. Ego wants recognition. Ego wants validation. Ego wants control. Desire is different. It is subtle. It is magnetic. It moves you without forcing you. Desire points to available timelines. When things are out of resonance, it's because you've expanded beyond them. Desire emerges to guide alignment. It signals where coherence can occur. It illuminates paths your system is ready to access. Desire points to available timelines. Many suppress desire out of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of the unknown. This stops expansion. It blocks access to the parallel versions of yourself that are waiting. Desire points to available timelines. You do not manifest from trying to force reality. You manifest by noticing what calls you. You manifest by responding intelligently. You manifest by moving toward resonance. Desire points to available timelines. When you listen carefully, your body, emotions, and intuition indicate the right direction. A sense of lightness, a pull toward engagement, a subtle increase in energy. These are confirmations. They are internal GPS signals. Desire points to available timelines. Unaddressed desire becomes tension. Unmet calling shows as frustration. Suppressed longing manifests as restlessness. Ignored intuition turns into regret. Presence, awareness, and acknowledgement dissolve this tension. Desire points to available timelines. Think about the lives of highly accomplished individuals. Many say they followed curiosity. Many say they followed fascination. Many say they followed an unrelenting pull toward something they could not explain. This is desire in action. Not ego, not habit, not obligation. Desire points to available timelines. When you act on authentic desire, the universe responds. Doors open. Support appears. Opportunities align. Not because of effort. Not because of trying harder. Because resonance meets readiness. Desire points to available timelines. The challenge is differentiating ego from authentic pull. Ego shouts. Ego demands. Ego compares. Desire whispers. Desire attracts. Desire expands. You step toward what resonates. You release what is not. Every time I release something, I create space to hold more. This includes releasing old identity patterns. This includes releasing unhelpful obligations. This includes releasing fear-based thinking. Desire points to available timelines. When your system aligns with true desire, manifestation becomes effortless. The nervous system adjusts. The mind clarifies. The body opens. The field responds. Reality begins to shift. Parallel versions emerge. Desire points to available timelines. Many overlook this because desire is subtle. It is a feeling of curiosity, inspiration, or intrigue. It may not look impressive externally. It may not generate immediate results. But the system recognizes it internally. Desire points to available timelines. Small, consistent attention to desire rewires trajectory. Acknowledging it, exploring it, and moving in its direction signals readiness. It primes the nervous system for higher realities. It clears old timelines. Desire points to available timelines. This is why stagnation occurs when people ignore longing. They attempt alignment without noticing the internal pull. They try to force progress through effort alone. They bypass the directional signal of desire. Desire points to available timelines. The lesson is simple. Notice what excites you. Notice what moves you. Notice what calls your attention without urgency or force. Move toward it intentionally. Adjust as feedback arises. Trust the guidance of resonance. Desire points to available timelines. You are not manifesting from wanting. You are manifesting from alignment. You are manifesting from noticing what the system already signals. Desire points to available timelines. Your next opportunity is not arbitrary. Your next breakthrough is not random. Your next version of self already exists. Follow the directional signal. Integrate readiness. Step into resonance. Desire points to available timelines. Now that you understand how desire guides access to higher realities, the next step is how to hold those realities consistently once they appear. Chapter 13. Power returns through stillness. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Most people confuse activity with power. They believe that motion equals mastery. They equate busyness with influence. They assume constant action produces control. This is not true. Power is internal. It emerges when the nervous system organizes. It emerges when the mind clears. It emerges when the body aligns. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Silence restructures perception. When external noise ceases, clarity appears. When inner chatter dissolves, direction emerges. When the body relaxes, coherence arises. Micropauses are tools for power. Pause before speaking. Pause before reacting. Pause before deciding. These small moments are not wasted. They accumulate as authority. They signal to the system that you are in command. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Sensory anchoring amplifies this effect. Notice your breath. Feel the contact points of your body. Hear ambient sounds without judgment. The body begins to calibrate. The mind begins to integrate. The field responds to your coherence. Stillness is not passive. It is command. When the nervous system is regulated, timelines align faster. Hypervigilance collapses. Trauma loops quiet. Collapsed potentials re-expand. You regain access to realities previously unavailable. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Many underestimate micropauses. They see action as more effective. They fail to recognize that the pause contains information. They ignore the field's feedback. Power accumulates in the absence of frantic movement. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Silence communicates to the system. It signals readiness. It signals control. It signals coherence. The world does not act against someone grounded in stillness. Chaos does not destabilize them. Resistance reorganizes around them. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Observe the gap between stimulus and response. Notice the space between thought and action. Notice the space between emotion and expression. In this gap, mastery resides. In this gap, timelines open. In this gap, power returns. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Every time I pause, I allow energy to settle. Every time I pause, I create space for clarity. Every time I pause, I signal readiness to the universe. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Resistance does not vanish immediately. Distractions appear. Old patterns test your composure. The avatar attempts to reclaim control. Anchor in micropauses. Anchor in sensory feedback. Anchor in breath. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Silence restores authority over the mind. The mind stops rushing. The mind stops overthinking. The mind begins to serve intention. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Notice how the field shifts in response to quiet mastery. Opportunities emerge effortlessly. Synchronicities increase. Support arrives without effort. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Many confuse stillness with inactivity. They mistake doing nothing for powerlessness. They mistake quiet for passivity. They mistake patience for stagnation. The opposite is true. Every pause sharpens discernment. Every pause increases precision. Every pause aligns internal energy. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Power flows when you are grounded in the present. Attention becomes precise. Energy becomes directed. Action becomes effortless. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Consider how masterful leaders operate. They speak intentionally. They act deliberately. They observe before reacting. Their influence is not loud. It is undeniable. Stillness is not passive. It is command. In your own system, stillness consolidates expansion. New realities require energy to sustain. New timelines require presence to anchor. New frequency requires coherence to hold. Stillness provides the framework. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Micropauses become habitual. Silence becomes a strategic tool. Presence becomes your default. The nervous system integrates effortlessly. The body anchors abundance naturally. The mind anticipates alignment instead of resisting. Stillness is not passive. It is command. When you master stillness, you reclaim personal authority. You navigate the world without friction. You influence without forcing. You create without struggle. Stillness is not passive. It is command. Now that you understand how to consolidate your expansion through silence and micropauses, the next step is aligning the nervous system and identity fully to hold your new realities. Chapter 14. Living from the I am state. I am precedes all conditions. Identity is not history. It is not shaped by childhood experiences. It is not determined by relationships. It is not bound to accomplishments or failures. I am precedes all conditions. Most people define themselves by what has already happened. I am this type of person. I am not capable of that. I am only this much. These are stories. Stories anchor old timelines. Stories limit access to potential realities. I am precedes all conditions. True identity exists before the mind. Before thought arises, before judgment forms, before comparison appears, you exist. This presence is unbound. It is infinite. It is free. I am precedes all conditions. Accessing this state requires awareness of being. Notice the space between breaths. Notice the sensation of aliveness. Notice the silent witness observing everything. This is the gateway. This is the unconditioned self. This is the I am. I am precedes all conditions. When you anchor here, reality responds differently. The field recognizes coherence. Opportunities appear without effort. Old patterns no longer dictate outcomes. I am precedes all conditions. Many confuse thinking with existence. They equate identity with opinion. They equate presence with activity. They equate value with visible accomplishment. None of this is necessary. Your true state is prior to all of it. It is beyond explanation. It is beyond definition. I am precedes all conditions. Before thought, presence is pure. The body feels it immediately. The nervous system registers it naturally. The energy system aligns without instruction. From this state, manifestation is effortless. You do not chase outcomes. You do not force alignment. You simply exist in resonance. I am precedes all conditions. Old identities dissolve naturally. Labels fade. Stories lose grip. Beliefs about limitation release. Space opens. New realities enter. Parallel versions of self become accessible. I am precedes all conditions. The mind will attempt to intervene. It will offer doubt. It will insist on logic. It will suggest timing is imperfect. Witness the interference. Do not react. Return to being. I am precedes all conditions. This state is not aspirational. It is not earned through effort. It is not achieved by accomplishing tasks. It is recognized in this moment, here and now. Recognition itself is liberation. Presence itself is expansion. Being itself is mastery. I am precedes all conditions. Every time I reclaim presence, old resistance falls away. Every time I observe without judgment, energy settles. Every time I rest in awareness, clarity expands. I am precedes all conditions. This is the foundation of infinite timelines. When identity is anchored in I am, the system no longer needs struggle to create. Desire is effortless. Expansion is natural. Manifestation follows frequency, not effort. I am precedes all conditions. Consider how this transforms relationships. You no longer depend on others to validate reality. You no longer require permission to exist fully. You interact without fusion or projection. Presence guides every interaction. Resonance dictates connection. Harmony emerges naturally. I am precedes all conditions. This state also transforms work, creativity, and purpose. Actions arise naturally from coherence. Ideas flow directly from alignment. Decisions are clear before analysis begins. No force is required. No struggle is necessary. The system operates from readiness. I am precedes all conditions. Your nervous system integrates this truth immediately. Every cell registers presence. Every heartbeat aligns with expansion. Every thought harmonizes with awareness. Energy becomes fluid. Time appears malleable. Access to parallel realities becomes constant. I am precedes all conditions. Those who live from this state do not seek outcomes. They do not chase abundance. They do not demand validation. They do not react to circumstance. Instead, they move from the field of pure being. They influence without trying. They manifest without forcing. I am precedes all conditions. This is the culmination of all previous chapters. When you release identity, integrate desire, master stillness, observe the avatar, and access presence, you arrive here. I am precedes all conditions. You exist as a field of possibility. You are the player, not the character. You are the conscious architect of reality. You hold infinite timelines in alignment. You operate from a place of knowing, not trying. You are fundamentally complete. I am precedes all conditions. Now the final step is to apply this mastery consistently, to anchor it in every moment, to live it in thought, action, and interaction, to embody it fully without interruption. Chapter 15. Crystallizing the New Timeline. Consistency turns possibility into reality. A new timeline does not stabilize on its own. Potential exists, but it requires structure. Expansion opens doors, but it does not hold them. Manifestation is immediate, yet integration takes practice. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Every repetition strengthens alignment. Each conscious choice reinforces the new frequency. Every moment of presence imprints the upgraded self. Every act of observation solidifies coherence. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Daily embodiment is the secret. Move through life intentionally. Anchor energy in the body. Bring awareness to thought, action, and feeling. Integration happens in the details, not in theory, not in planning. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Choice is the primary vehicle of stabilization. Each decision signals the system. Each yes or no calibrates reality. Each release of what no longer serves clears room for the next iteration. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Patience is essential. Time in human perception seems slow. Energy operates at a different rhythm. The system responds according to readiness, not urgency. Trust the process. Trust the signal. Trust the frequency. Consistency turns possibility into reality. The body must learn the upgrade. Muscle memory carries identity. Nervous system coherence locks in resonance. Emotion signals integration before thought can recognize it. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Patterns reinforce themselves. When you act from alignment, new behaviors emerge naturally. When you release past identities, new capabilities unfold. When you honor desire, the system moves toward realization. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Micro-repetition compounds results. Small moments of awareness matter more than dramatic gestures. Every breath, pause, and observation reinforces the upgraded self. Every subtle choice accelerates timeline stabilization. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Old timelines will attempt to reclaim attention. Familiarity pulls you back. Comfort seeks to re-establish the previous version of self. The mind whispers, return to what is known. Do not comply. Anchor in presence. Act in alignment. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Energy expands only when space is maintained. Release resistance daily. Clear emotional residue regularly. Observe without judgment continually. Consistency turns possibility into reality. The field responds to repetition more than force. One repeated alignment is stronger than 10 desperate attempts. One conscious action solidifies the system more than multiple rushed efforts. One patient choice outlasts countless ungrounded pushes. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Integration is nonlinear. Some days feel effortless. Some days feel heavy. Some days appear to stall. All are part of the process. All feed the crystallization of the timeline. All are absorbed by practice. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Accountability is your ally. Witness yourself objectively. Notice drift. Notice fusion with old patterns. Adjust promptly. Return to coherence. Re-anchor alignment. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Time is no longer a limitation. The timeline shifts naturally when your energy holds steady. The nervous system consolidates expansion automatically. The body remembers mastery. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Reality reflects repeated frequency. Opportunities, people, and experiences will align automatically. External conditions match internal coherence. Parallel versions of yourself integrate into everyday life. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Every release strengthens the structure. Every observation corrects drift. Every conscious choice signals the upgraded reality. Every practice of presence crystallizes access. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Manifestation becomes effortless. The system delivers in accordance with your frequency. No need for struggle. No need for overthinking. No need for trying harder. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Celebrate micro-progress. Notice subtle shifts in thought patterns. Notice small changes in behavior. Notice the way your nervous system responds differently. These are proof of crystallization. These are confirmations of the new timeline. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Now embody fully. Move intentionally. Release what no longer serves. Anchor in presence. Respond with awareness. Consistency turns possibility into reality. This is the culmination of the journey. All previous practices, releasing, observing, stillness, desire, I am coalesce. All expansion, alignment, and mastery integrate. All parallel versions merge into coherence. Consistency turns possibility into reality. You now live as a conscious architect. You stabilize reality through repeated, intentional presence. You maintain access to upgraded timelines effortlessly. You crystallize abundance, freedom, and infinite potential in every moment. Consistency turns possibility into reality. Your journey continues with precision, awareness, and command. Every thought, action, and emotion now participates in building your upgraded reality. Every day, every choice, every breath reinforces the timeline you have chosen. Consistency turns possibility into reality. You are complete. You are powerful. You are aligned. Consistency turns possibility into reality. This is your mastery. This is your reality. This is your timeline. In closing, you have not been listening to information. You have been undergoing reorganization. The moment you stop carrying what is heavy, your reality responds. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Timelines do not shift through effort. They shift through coherence, through emotional completion, through identity release. You already felt it as you listened. The slowing, the clarity, the subtle sense that something old is no longer gripping you. This is how upgrades begin. Quietly, internally, inevitably. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need permission. You do not need proof before you move. The only question now is this. Will you stabilize the old timeline, or will you embody the new one? Starting today, choose one belief to release, one emotional pattern to complete, one identity you no longer need to wear. Return to this audiobook. Let repetition install the change. Let presence do the work. And as you walk forward, remember this. You are not chasing a better future. You are allowing a truer version of yourself to lead. Choose coherence. Choose expansion. And step fully into the timeline that has been waiting for you.